These are the two cards that are going to push Rescue Ace right into the meta. Hey everybody, this is Tombox, and we're going to go explore the Rescue Ace cards. Now, today's video, we're going to be learning about their basics, opening combo that you should know to play this deck to some level of competency, and we're going to talk about how this deck is going to grind against your opponent right into the ground, because this is a very grindy deck and you should not get into that position. It's a little bit like Sky Striker almost, where if you like popping off a ton of back rows that do some very simple things, but over time start to accumulate a ton of advantage, this is the deck for you. But unlike Sky Striker, you do have a ton of big bodies, this is the deck for you. So make sure you guys hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and let's go over the cards and we'll see the combo at the end. Let's kick it off with the main deck monsters. We have triple Rescue Ace Hydrant. This card in particular is more or less like Sky Striker having 3 spells in their graveyard. It enables your quick play spells and trap cards to have the additional effect, making them way better. Destroying cards won't have consequences because they can't activate things with the same name. More or less giving your opponent no material when you negate their effect. This is what enables it, and it just does that by existing because that's just part of the effect of the spells and traps. Now, in terms of what it actually does, while you control another Rescue Ace, this card cannot be targeted by a battle or card effect, which is good because it's 0/0. And the reason for that is so it can help promote your ability to search an additional monster. This card, once per turn, can add a Rescue Ace monster from your deck. Yes, during the main phase, this is what it can do. So it's also pretty awesome. So it really loads it up, prepares your setup properly. And the other effect that a lot of people will be using is that it's like Coup Clock. If you set a card via the effect of a Rescue Ace, such as Turbulence, Reinforce, or Emergency, and they set it straight onto the field, you can activate one of those immediately. So it's a little bit like Coup Clock. So that's what this card does. It's just very pivotal to get the additional effect so that all those simple effects that you have from your back row can really make a huge impact. Now, let's get into the real starter of the deck. We have triple copies of Airlifter. Airlifter searches for the spell card, mainly to search for Emergency. Now, all these level 4 monsters, they do 2 things. One, they have a trigger on summon, and then they have a second trigger, which is when they're in your hand or on the field, you get to tribute them. So they have the tribute trigger and the summon trigger. So for their summon trigger, this one adds a spell. Emergency is essentially emergency teleport that just fetches you out a monster, but you do have to send and tribute another monster away, which is fine because you can tribute from your hand as well, so that's why it's totally okay. This one searches the spell, and Emergency summons out a monster straight from the deck, so it just literally loads your field. And there's ways to recycle resources from Banish and Graveyard. So now in terms of the other trigger, the hand trigger and the effect trigger that's caused by your opponent activating a monster effect on the field, when you tribute this, the tribute is that you summon out another Rescue Ace from your hand. So that's that. Then we have a very key pivotal point here. Like all meta decks, we have hand traps. These are essentially hand traps. Rescue Ace Impulse, not really known for the on-field effect, but you know it for the hand and tribute trigger. So for that trigger, you get to summon out a Rescue Ace machine from the deck, which makes it so that you can go for the big bosses. You can go for Fire Engine. You should go for Fire Engine as your first summon if it's turn 0, so you can load the field with more and more monster, unless you have like paired yourself with multiple warriors. So most of these warriors, they're able to summon stuff from somewhere, and this one is from the deck. On field, you get to choose, not target, you get to choose the effect monster with the highest attack, and that monster cannot activate their effect. So yeah, there's that. Then we have Rescue Ace Monitor. This one summons from the graveyard as the tribute trigger, which is caused by your opponent activating a monster effect. But the other effect is that you get to add a trap card from your deck. That's why this is a one-off. It's kind of like a later game. It's not really an opener for you. Maybe you tribute it off right away with your Emergency. Now on to the Fire Machines. We have Fire Attacker and Fire Engine. Fire Attacker, when your opponent adds a card besides from drawing, you get to draw 2 and then you get to discard 1. That's kind of a cool effect. But these monsters, they summon themselves out when you normal or special summon out a Rescue Ace. So when you normal summon out one card, these cards just jump out. They help you provide you with additional bodies, especially when you need to make a combo to Proxy F Magician so that your fire monsters cannot be targeted, which is why they're there. But Fire Engine is really good when your opponent special summons onto the field. Your Fire Engine summons out a level 4 or lower Rescue Ace from the deck. So you get to e-tally out this card with Impulse, and then this card gives you another monster, whether it be Air Hoister. I think Airlifter is probably the best one, because Airlifter is the one that gets you a spell card, so immediately just gives you a play on your turn. And then we have triple copies of Preventer. This is the new card. Konami blessed us with a common which hopefully this will probably get a super and OTS. I'm guessing this will get like a future OTS super. But for now, this is your Book of Moon, but only if you control another Rescue Ace. A very common misplay is that people just go immediately into this card without another Rescue Ace on the side. It's just a vanilla. But when this card gets sent to the graveyard, by any means, you can foolish it into the graveyard or use it to pay for the emergency tribute. You get to revive and special summon one of your banished Rescue Ace monster. And this one also have a special summon condition, like Turbulence, to banish any Rescue Ace card, including the spells and traps. So you can kind of cycle it so that you can have more or less infinite resources, just cycling from graveyard to banish to summon out these guys. It's pretty good. And then you can use like Salamangre, Silent Wolf to put this card back in your hand. You can use Alert to put it back in your hand. There's just ways to cycle it, and this deck is just really good at cycling, very similar to Sky Striker. Yeah, and then finally we have the 2 copies of Turbulence. Opening multiple is not that great, but this is still your key card because activate set 4 spells and traps with different names straight from the deck. And you might be wondering, you're going to run out of resources. No, this deck doesn't run out of resources. You have a field spell for that, but that's what this card does. But whenever something gets removed off the field while you control Turbulence, you can pop a card on the field. So, and for hand traps, we have Triple Ash Blossom. Okay, I am over explaining things, but this is my first profile with it, and I want to teach you guys what to do with it. So essentially, you know your starter cards are right here. You have your Airlifters and you have your Hydrants. And we just play 3 Ashes. Also, they're fire, so Salamangre, Sunwave Wolf can add these back to your hand. Okay, now for the spell cards, we have Reinforcement of the Army, 1 for 1, and 1 copy of Rescue Ace HQ. Gives you your Airlifter, gives you your Hydrant without your normal summon. If you can get a free Hydrant, that means you can add the Airlifter. Airlifter can summon out, get the Emergency. Emergency can just tether out most of the other stuff. Okay, it's more or less free. From here, you use the HQ. The HQ can take 4 of your banish or engrave Rescue Ace cards, put them back into the deck, and then you draw a card. So that's why this is good. Which means if you burned all your cards in one turn, Turbulence doesn't have really much to set. Rescue Ace HQ will reset that, you know, provide you with backup, and the backup comes right back out onto the field. So this is your reload card. Really, really good, and provides you with 1 additional normal summon. So if you have both the Hydrant and the Airlifter, then this can provide you with 2 normal summons to get that properly set up. As for the spell lineup, I'm just putting them all here. We have Rescue, Alert, Emergency, Emergency, Emergency. Well, clearly there's an emergency here. And so this is your E-Tally, but you have to tribute away a card, whether it be from your hand or from your field. So that's the limitation with this one, okay? You can activate it with nothing on the field or in your no monsters in your hand as well. The reason why I can do that is because it's going to provide you with the monster, and then you're going to tribute it off anyway. You can use this as a pseudo preventer. If you get like evenly matched, you can use this to help dodge evenly, so they can still provide something on the field. Because evenly is going to leave you with 1 card on the field regardless. So if you use Emergency, summon a Preventer, and send away Preventer, that means the Preventer is going to revive one of your Banish. And you're likely going to have at least 1 card banished. So if you keep your Hydrant, and then you can still get the Preventer out onto the field, that's going to be pretty useful. That's one way you can kind of play around the evenly match, because that's one of the deadlier cards. Then there's the Rescue, Alert. These are all good cards. This is Rhoda if you control Hydrant, Returning Alive if there's no Hydrant, Reborn from the graveyard for Rescue Ace cards, or steal your opponent's monster from the graveyard. So this card is the one that catches people off guard the most, especially against branded players. They're like, oh, I'm going to start fusing. No, I'm just going to revive your Fallen of Albaz. And we play double Prosperity. There is a little bit of a conflict with Prosperity. It could just be OCG playing 2, and then I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to copy them. But the conflict is actually with the field spell. This has a draw effect. The draw effect is when you put back 4, you draw. So you can't put your cards back if you use Prosperity. But it's a decent way to start the board, so it's still really good. Just don't really want to see it later in the game, because setting your cards back is more important than adding a card. 2 Prosperity, I think, is good. You can try it out yourself. I'm playing Thrust because I play this particular package here. I need this because this deck has a very big problem dealing with back row. That's it. It has big problems dealing with back row. All the spells and traps, it can handle monsters, but the interaction with spells and traps, very, very difficult. Even your reinforced trap card does not answer to spells and traps. That's why having something to deal with Feather Duster would be very, very nice. And probably want to play your own evenly match. Okay, into the trap lineup, we play 1 copy of Reinforce, 1 Extinguish, 1 Contain, and I play triple copies of Infinite Impermanence. You might be like, oh, why are you playing gold? This is just for speed and convenience. I don't like playing into time, and having all my cards not having well, a separation on the board. This is the only way I can. So when I'm sifting through my deck and I'm trying to look for trap cards, I don't want to go through multiple imperms. This is just for a time-saving measure for me. You don't have to. You can play secrets if you want. You can play whatever rarity you want. You can play altis if you have altis. Altis would have made it a lot easier too. But I am not that loaded. So reinforce adds 1500 attack to your monster, cannot be destroyed by battle, and is unaffected by card effects. Or monster effects, not card effects. Monster effects, that's why spells and traps still affect you. But you can also banish this card to reset one of your spells and spell cards. So you can immediately activate it again because you have the hydrant, as long as you didn't already activate it, because most of the spell cards are hard once per turn. Whereas the trap cards, they're not. But one thing people forget about the trap cards is you need to control a rescue ace monster to activate these cards. So Extinguish destroys the monster and affect monster opponent controls, but if you control Hydrant, that monster's effect cannot activate for the rest of the turn. Anything with the same name, completely shut off. It's almost like a Call with the Grave. And then Contain is Imperm plus the no material. They can't use this material. They can't fusion, synchro, exceed, or link summon with it for the rest of the turn. So this can really just stop people's strategy completely. I think it's actually pretty decent, especially if you do it to the monster in the extra monster zone. That hurts them so much, and Imperm is Imperm. And that's the entire main deck. Starting off with the extra deck, we have Mud Dragon of the Swamp and Proxy F Magician. Both of these are very useful because you can use Proxy F to set up the Muddy Mud Dragon. Most of your deck is fire anyway, so you're going to use it as the material to get that summon out for Mud Dragon. Call fire, now you can't be targeted, you can't get hit by Imperm, and that's part of the opening play that you need to learn. For our Link 1s, we have Link Karibo, Salamangreat Almirage, and one Anima. These are Link 1s. Anima to punish people summoning into the extra monster zone, under the extra monster zone, and Almirage in case you want to fire lock yourself under Gozen match and you normal summon out your Hydrant, and same with the Link Karibo. You just want to put the card into the graveyard so you can summon out some of your bosses. For your Link 2s, we got Hita, Sunlight Wolf, Nightmare Phoenix, and IP Masquerena. These are your main Link 2s that you're going to see in most decks anyway. Hita in a mirror match can help you unbrick and can provide you with an OTK given that there's an Ash in the graveyard. Sunlight Wolf can help you recur resources, but remember you can't summon the card off of Sunlight Wolf. That's the restriction. You can't normal or special it. Then there's Phoenix is Phoenix, IP is IP. What does IP go into aside from the Nightmare Phoenix? You go into Topologic Trisbana, Unicorn, and the other bosses. But let's go for these two first. Trisbana is kind of a neat one. This is how you punish your opponent with IP Masquerena, because if you have Preventer on the field, so you say you make into a Topologic Trisbana, and then your opponent sets like a bunch of back row. You burn all your back row until you get to your copy of Rescue. You rescue a monster, or you use Preventer to summon into the arrow, causing that monster to get banished. And it doesn't matter if your cards get banished, you can just shuffle them back with HQ. So make sure you load the graveyard properly, and then Trisbana can just wipe out all your opponent's back row, and then, you know, life is good. And Unicorn's Unicorn. As for the remaining bosses, you know, we're not under a fire lock of any kind, to be honest. So we have Appaloosa, Access Code, and Underworld Goddess of Closed World. You generate enough bodies anyways for this card. You could switch it for, instead, maybe a Baguska, just in case you get D-Shifter, but I don't even think D-Shifter hurts that much because you can shuffle back banished cards. You might have noticed that my card rarity is going lower and lower, and that's because I never break any of my decks. Now, before you keep making fun of me, let's take a look at the basic combo thing. But before I jump into the two quick combos, shoutouts to MST.TV, I have to plug it in, of course. Of course, we have the Alti Egos. This is what it looks like. You have the Alti Instinct. I'm using this with my cash deck, but like, yeah, we have Alti Instinct, Alti Ego, just in case you want to know what they look like. We have NFTs, just because they're not for trade, and if you want to protect your foil sleeves, because these are really, really nice looking, we can sleeve them up for you as well. We have all those at MSTmerch.com, so check out MSTmerch.com. We appreciate your support. You can even sort your collection with our box dividers. You can write it yourself, or we have the letter tabs for you. All good, all good. Let's get into this stuff here. Also, you can pick up a mat. Okay, let's start with the basic, the one card combo. Why Airlifter is so strong, and these are our MST Reds, and since this was a fire-based deck, I decided to kind of equip it in the same way. So, let's get started. Normal summon out the Airlifter. Airlifter effect, add emergency. See how it's already playing a role here. Activate the emergency. This is also a way to help your Turbulence dodge cards like Imperm if you didn't need to use emergency beforehand. You can use that to help block away the infinite impermanence by tributing off a card. But in this case, we're going to special summon a Hydrant in defense mode, and we're going to tribute our Airlifter, and now we can activate our Hydrant. Hydrant is going to add the Turbulence, and with two cards in the graveyard, we're going to banish both of these. Okay, we're going to banish to special summon out the Turbulence. We can't really have any way to protect it. This is a 1-card combo anyway. We're assuming everything's going through. Activate Turbulence, and we're going to set 4 cards. And these are the 4 cards we're going for. Extinguish Contain, so we have Destruction with no follow-ups. It's a little bit called by the gravy. And we have Contain, which is the Imperm with no material because we have Hydrant. We have Alert, which is our Rhoda, and we have Rescue, which is our Graveyard Summoning. Shuffle, 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 put them all in face down. But there is 1 card we can activate right away thanks to Hydrant, and the one that we're going to activate right away is going to be Alert. We activate Alert. Alert's going to add a copy of the Preventer into our hand. We're going to banish the Alert, special summon our Preventer. Next turn, your ideal setup would be to get another Air Hoister or Air Lifter and get the field spell up so that you can cycle all your cards all over again. So that's kind of the goal of turn 1 to turn 2. But what do you have in terms of disruption? Coming from 1 card, sure, they're a little basic, but basic is good enough. When a card gets removed off the field, Turbulence will send and destroy one of the cards on your opponent's side. Preventer, while you control another Rescue Ace, you have a Book of Moon. So you have a Destruction, a Book of Moon, a Imperm, another Destruction, and a Graveyard Disruption. You can special summon cards out of your opponent's graveyard, so it's almost like a Shark Cannon. So yeah, this is what you have. Lots of disruption, very similar. It's like your Afterburners, your Shark Cannon. This is just Sky Striker repackaged with bigger bodies. Yay! So this is the basic. Okay, so to make Proxy F Magician with the least amount of material, then you're just going to need Airlifter and Preventer. This card being able to special summon from Banish is kind of the key reason why it works. So we're going to normal summon out Airlifter. We're doing the same thing here. We're going to add Emergency, activate the Emergency. We're going to special summon out the Hydrant, and then we're going to tribute the Airlifter. This hits the graveyard as well. Activate the Hydrant, get yourself the Turbulence, the Turbulence. And so now we're going to banish our Airlifter, special summon Preventer. We're going to link summon these into Proxy F Magician. Preventer hit the graveyard, so we're going to special summon back our Airlifter. Activate the effect of Proxy F Magician, perform a fusion summon, and we get to summon our Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Activate the effect called Fire, and now we're going to banish 2 cards. I would like to keep 1 card in the graveyard at the very least that can special summon back. So we're going to banish the Airlifter, and we're also going to banish the Emergency. And we're going to special summon Turbulence because we should have called Fire earlier. So now that we have this, we get to 1, 2, 3, 4. Not worrying about Imperm anymore. Shuffle them up and reset them onto the board. You can use up your Alert or your Rescue to bring the Hydrant or the Preventer back onto the field so that you have additional disruption. I think having the Hydrant back on the field is pretty good. You don't have to like commit everything all at once, but I'm just saying it's pretty decent. So you still have everything available for your opponent. So I'm going to teach you how to read your combos a little bit better because you don't have to rely on opening Preventer. There's just other ways to get to Preventer, like Alert. If you open with Airlifter and Emergency, that means you have Alert, while with Hydrant on the field, you get to just add a monster straight from the deck, so you can add Preventer. So essentially having any of these 3 will lead to the Proxy F into Mud Dragon of the Swamp combo. And it gets a little bit easier if you already have a Turbulence in hand because therefore your Rescue Ace Hydrant doesn't have to add that and instead can just add something a little bit more useful, and maybe you can just go for the Preventer instead, or it can go for the Fire Attack or Fire Engine just so you get additional bodies and then therefore it's easier to fuse. So that's all I got for this video. I know I didn't talk about how you destroy your opponent, OTK them, but essentially it's pretty obvious they have a bunch of high attacking monsters. So once you have dealt with all your opponent's interruptions and defenses, you just go for the big attack OTKs, and you even have the ability to generate so many bodies. So with all the monsters, you can go for link-based OTK with access code Talker, whatever means that you need, because you have enough damage. That's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button for me. Check out MSTmerch.com. Really appreciate you guys for the support, and you guys can get some awesome sleeves. I'm using the classic red. I really like this one for this deck in particular. But of course, the Ulti Ego, Ulti Instinct, they're probably the top sellers. I know one of the bundles are out. We'll get to it. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.